This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
What's up, everybody? It's another Birds Breakdown, and here we are on a Tuesday after Monday Night Football, and we are broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Well, not really a lot to say. Good to start off this show. You know, it's like it was. This was a total dismantling of this team, and even I thought early that they, when Dallas came right down the field, I wasn't concerned about that. It was like, all right, they got a touchdown in the first 3 minutes of the game. Okay. When he threw the interception on the following drive, I was like, that wasn't the right play call there. I don't think he should have thrown the ball, but let's see how it plays out. And of course, Fletcher Cox with a I don't know if that was a fumble. I guess it was a fumble recovery and not an interception, because obviously Dak did not have any interception. So, and even then, it was like, okay, maybe they're trying to figure something out and work this out. And then Dallas goes down and scores. I think it took two more drives. And then the third drive they scored a touchdown, and they felt like I felt like that they were moving at will.
Yeah.
And our offense, just the play calling.
That's it, right
Scratch
there.
my head. The interest that I felt that I tried to get from the coach, I almost felt like, and I'm not trying to put, my thoughts out in everybody else's head, but I felt that Nick Siriani was not all there.
Yeah.
Just I felt like the moment was lost on him some.
Yeah.
That made you need the T-shirt. Is that what it is? You needed the T-shirt to kind of prove that you were something, and then now it's nothing. Like I just didn't get it. And interestingly enough, I happen to be staying at the same hotel as the ESPN Monday Night Football crew was. And a couple of things. One, and I'll get into some of this a little bit later, but one of the things that kind of struck me when I was talking to the camera crew, one of the more senior guys of the camera crew, is that he said he just didn't feel any passion from Nick Sirianni. He said, I saw you more trying to uplift the team a lot more than he was. And that's an issue if you're a football team. And I was like, wow. Now that's coming from somebody who is, he's filming the game. He says he was filming Nick Sirianni a lot just to see some of the mannerisms, because there's still not a lot of tape on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that there just wasn't a lot of passion. There wasn't a lot. He felt there wasn't just a lot of interest in the game, that he just seemed like he might have been a little disjointed.
Mm-hmm.
What did it look like on TV?
So look, I'll start off with this. I just wanted to reiterate to people, I'm with you guys. I hate losing to Dallas. I don't care what this season circumstances are. Losing to Dallas sucks. There's not many things that are worse than losing to Dallas, especially the way we did. But what I do want to iterate to people, it is week 3 of we have an extra game now, a 16 games or 17 game season. So everyone just needs to take a step back and just relax. This is a long season, and a lot of crazy things can happen. And if you guys do follow me, you know how I've broken up this schedule. This is a schedule of 2 halves. This first half is difficult, even for a young team like the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, you got a bunch of good teams that are on the schedule in the first half. The second half is really where I'm going to make my serious criticisms on this team. But we do have to criticize this game. We do have to call out what we need to call out. I will say I'm putting this loss mostly on Nick Sirianni as well. This is a team sport, and even talking about the Sixers, I'm kind of dawning on me more. We need to look at it overall as a team. But when I look at why we lost yesterday, I feel like the defense with what they had to work with. Now, look, Brandon Graham's loss bigger than what I expected it to be. I felt like the pass rush was not there completely from the defensive ends. I saw Josh Sweat over pursuing way too much. Derek Barnett, I mean, what else can we say? That dude is a freaking bonehead. All right. Hargrave and Cox did their job, but the run defense definitely got hit as well from not having Brandon Graham in there. But when the defense, I felt like did the best that they could, the offense, and I'm not here to kill Jalen Hurts. I'm not even here to kill this offense. What I'm going to kill is this terrible game plan and play calling by Nick Sirianni. Dude, we just went through a week of criticizing you for some terrible short yardage calls that you made. And now this week, 3 running attempts. Forget about Jalen. Everyone, forget about Jalen Hurts' development. All right, forget about all that. But what we need to worry about right now. Sorry about that. I got work over here. But what we need to worry about right now is Jalen Hurts' health. Sirianni put Jalen Hurts in some terrible situations by throwing the ball 39 times. We're talking about guys, we need to remember that Jalen Hurts is a rookie quarterback. Still, essentially. He just played in his 7th start of his NFL career. Is his accuracy not there? Of course, I get that. Those 2 interceptions, those are on Jalen Hurts. But when you got a young quarterback throwing 39 times, what are we doing here? On that touchdown drive, right? Jalen Hurts made a lot of plays, but dude, how many shots did he take? Forget about his development. He's going to get hurt out there. That is a concern to me. I just don't know what Sirianni was thinking. I don't know what Sirianni from the Niners game till the Cowboys game, what he went through in his head, because I didn't see, and if anything, I saw a decline. And to your point, I will say I do see what you're saying about the passion. What I saw from Sirianni's sideline was a guy. It seemed like the moment was a little bit too big at times. I saw him with his head down. He was wandering back and forth. He looked very nervous, and that's things that does not bode well for us. He's going to get ripped apart all week again. And now we're in week 3. These guys have some serious adversity, but I think Sirianni is going to have to deal with most of the adversity there. Because, look, this Dallas Cowboys defense, we made them look like the Seahawks defense from 2013. This defense is not that good. And I'm hearing everyone say, hey, the Dallas Cowboys defense is back. Dan Quinn's knows what he's doing. No, we shot ourselves in the foot. And credit to Dallas because they took advantage of it. And I will say this, Micah Parsons, that dude's legit. That dude is absolutely legit. The versatility from that kid to play and then to be able to play linebacker as well, crazy, absolutely crazy. So to me, I'm putting this loss on this Eagles offensive game plan. It wasn't good enough. It was actually terrible. And when you got a veteran team like the Dallas Cowboys, I told you I thought the Cowboys would win the division at the beginning of the year. I still think that. It hurts me to say, but that right there is the reason why I think that they will win it. They put the better game plan together, and we just didn't step up on a primetime game.
They were by far the better team. By far the better team. And looking at Dak up close and personal now. Now, like I said, I was literally 1 row from the field, and he looks like he's back in his form from before, and which is, I think, is a big deal. I mean, that's a huge step for him because obviously that, the way that his leg was broken or his ankle was broken, and to come back and be able to have that type of trust on your leg, and he did take a couple of hits,
Yeah.
so. I mean, it wasn't like he had a clean jersey. You know what I mean? He did get knocked around some. However, he was able to perform, and when you think about it, and I think about all the different things that have been going on and the offensive penalties. I mean, obviously, between the offensive line now, and again, we're having the issue with the offensive line where it's starting to crumble in terms of, injuries and stuff like that. I mean, Sayamalu now is out, and obviously Sayamalu was not my favorite player on that offensive line. But as we were moving forward, it's like, okay, well, at least he was out there a lot. You know what I mean? So he worked with these guys a lot. But Brooks
And
is out.
if I may, real quick on Seumalo, we both have been really critical on Seumalo. I really was impressed with what he did in the first 2 weeks. This is a big loss, and you saw your boy Kelsey being emotional after hearing the news and seeing that. It is a big loss, and the injury bug is back, guys. It's back. Oh my
Well, and
god!
that's what happens. I mean, at like all of these teams, there
Yeah,
is something there. The way football was before is no longer the same. They changed the way that they do their training regiments and everything else. And it may be time to take steps backwards because obviously there's too many injuries happening. And this is league wide. This isn't just with the Eagles. It's whoever's going to be able to remain the healthiest. In fact, it was funny because I took a tour of AT&T Stadium the day before, and the tour guide kept saying the same thing. He's like, it's not a matter of everybody's got to be healthy. Everybody's got to be healthy. It's not, and it goes all the way from the football team to all of the fans, and they're trying to make sure everybody's healthy and stuff like that because that's, of course, COVID is still in mind. But this was a straight debacle. It was a straight debacle, and even when they showed a little bit of life, it was like the light kept going out fast, and it was going out fast because of poor play calling. It's like I Nick Siriani is a rookie coach, but these people are getting paid lots of money to make sure that these problems can get resolved and get fixed. Now, this guy never called plays before, and it shows now. And it shows. So
yeah.
it may be time to start to figure out maybe somebody else should be calling plays. Maybe somebody else should be doing some of the things that you want to have, that you felt that you were ready for and you're not ready for.
Yeah.
Because I'm beginning to wonder now, it's like, all right, so when he came with the t-shirt on, I was like, okay, I don't care about that.
It's
But
yeah.
maybe that is the sign of some bigger problem. That he isn't ready to be a
Mm,
head coach. Yeah, Doug Peterson in his first year, when he said, we're gonna love him up, you know what I mean? And he got blasted for it. But it made sense because he was trying to get a certain culture in the locker room.
right.
Here, the culture is supposed to be competition, 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 but the guy at the top's not competing.
Hmm.
And that's what I have the problem with. When I feel that the coach who is, you know, from day one said competition, 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 and he's not competing, or at least I feel like that he doesn't even know how to compete. Maybe he wants to compete. Maybe he has the desire to compete, but I don't think he knows how to compete. And that's the problem. And that's
Yeah.
starting to become the issue. We've got a few more weeks to figure this out because obviously our life ain't going to get any easier. We have Kansas City who's coming off of 2 losses. We have Carolina who's 3-0 as of right now. Then we have Tampa Bay you just lost a tough one, against the Rams, and I'm sure they're going to be all fired up.
Yeah.
And then it's like at that point, then we have Vegas, you know what I mean? Which seems like it's going to be a lot of fun, but at that point, we could be 1-5.
I honestly, I think we need to start preparing ourselves to that reality because I just in the next couple games that you mentioned, I just don't see a way that we can get a second win. And I think, like I said in the beginning of this episode, I think that this season is going to start for the Eagles in the second half. So, we talked about playing the Chiefs, the Panthers, the Bucks, the Raiders. I think those right there are 4 losses, and that would put us at 1-6, in my opinion. But that's the season to me starts on October 31st on Halloween. I think that that 1 o'clock game against the Lions that's going to jumpstart our season, and I think in the second half it'll be a much different team. But to your point on Nick Sirianni, we've seen this before where we've had a head coach who's never called plays. I mean, obviously Andy and obviously Doug. With Sirianni, he had Frank Reich ahead of him. When I don't think he would call a lot of plays. He was part of the game planning, but Frank Reich is obviously a play caller. And I would assume that at times Frank would allow Sirianni to call some plays to get acclimated into that. But now there's no one here to kind of be like, yeah, Nick, why would you do that? Like, there's no one here to check him and correct him on that. I will say this. You have these 4 games that are going to be tough. I'm not expecting to win, but I don't want to see that performance I saw the last 2 weeks where you shoot yourselves in the foot. Last 2 weeks, I feel like the Eagles had opportunities to win both those games. Even last night, I felt like the Eagles could have had an opportunity to at least made it interesting. But again, you shot yourself in the foot. So these next couple games, I'm going to give him up until the Bucks game. After the Bucks game, if I see more of this, the play calling has to go to Shane Steichen. I don't care. I want to see what Shane's got because what I've seen in the last 2 games, we're going to be a bad team if that happens. Like, I don't think we'll win another game if we continue the play calling that we have. You have a young quarterback. We need to help his development. The blessing, and this is another thing I didn't mention, like, people were killing Jalen Hurts, but remember last year we saw Carson Wentz have a bad drive, a bad interception. What would he do? Go on the sideline, shake his head, look disappointed. What would Jalen do yesterday? He would go to the sideline, head up, run right to the jog over to the sideline, but he kept his composure, and that's what real leaders do. I think Jalen's going to be fine, but if you do not help him in his development, we're going to lose another quarterback here. So to me, Sirianni got to get it going here, man.
Well, I will give most of the blame yesterday to Sirianni. However, I am also going to give some blame higher up. There was a reason why I guess the rumors of Deshaun Watson continued and continued and continued. And there's a few things that I see, and I'm sure that upper management also sees now. That one, Jalen Hurts is not Lamar Jackson, is not Russell Wilson. We know that now. I think that 7 games is enough to kind of show that. Doesn't mean that he can't get better, just means that he's not those guys. And the other thing that I saw is that, I mean, the arm strength is there. They're true on that. He just doesn't have that arm strength. It's like guys are getting open, and they throws that ball, and he can't get it down the field far enough or fast enough. And it's, that was the problem on the first throw. On that first interception, it was a problem a couple of times with Quez Watkins. You know what I mean? Where he's got to come back to battle for the ball, and luckily he's good at that. You know what I mean? Especially against those guys, but it's going to be continually an issue. And I feel that he's got to come up very quickly. That curve has got to happen very fast for him, for Hertz. I mean, I liked what he said yesterday at the press conference.
About the deuce?
The deuce. You know what I mean? You don't look at, and he's right. He's right. You don't look at it. You don't examine and be like, oh, wow, that's a big one or it's a small one. You know what I mean? You just you wipe and you flush and you move on. You know what I mean? And there's something to be said for that. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you can't have a rear view mirror. You have to always be looking forward. So I can appreciate the mindset that he has. Right. But it is challenging. And it's going to be challenging from here on out with this team. And I was waiting. So I also heard, again, talking to the ESPN guys was very informative to the point where, first off, I got the full idea from the crew themselves how difficult Philly is to work. That Philadelphia fans, they said by far are tough to deal with. And even for the camera crew, they're tough to deal with. So and it's interesting because, I mean, I had my shoulder pads off, but I was still painted while I was down there talking to them because it's like I'm trying to get a beer and relax for half a second before I come up and go to bed. But and so they knew who I was, and they're like, this Philly's really tough to deal with, and by far the most difficult fans. He goes, now there are other difficult fans out there, like the fact that the Chargers are playing the Raiders. He's like, there'll be fist fights in the stands there, but Philadelphia is by far the most aggressive fan base. And I was like, okay, well, no one likes us, we don't care. So, that at least that's the thought process that we have behind that, or at least we put behind that. But they were saying that this team is not the way they showed out there today or yesterday was, almost like they quit in the middle of the game. It's just those last two drives, there's two touchdown drives by the Cowboys. The defense quit. And that's what he was saying. And I would say, well, I don't know about that. But then I look at that last touchdown where Slay just kind of stops and falls to the ground. And I don't know if he got hurt or not. I mean, but I felt like that they quit on the play.
Here,
And
here,
what else is there to do?
here's what I'll say. I wouldn't say that they quit, because just by looking at the stats, I just don't think that they quit per se. Here's what I will say, and I think it's as bad as quitting. I think they felt hopeless because I think after a certain amount of beating that they got, I think they felt hopeless, and I think it was part in doing like they were. I do feel like they were putting it all out there, but when the game plan is not conducive to what's going on in the game, like and they're just trying so hard, it just wasn't matching up, and I think at the end they just felt hopeless, and that could be a demeaning feeling as well, and that's kind of what I felt like watching that fourth quarter there for the Eagles. What I will say to your Jalen Hurts point, I recognize he is not a fully developed quarterback. That doesn't mean I don't think he can continue his growth as a quarterback. I think he can definitely grow as a QB. Um, but even so, when you have a young quarterback, when you have the injuries on the offensive line, I just don't understand why the running game wasn't implemented more. Just imagine, like Dillard, by the way, terrible. Absolutely god awful. I did not like what I saw at all. It didn't matter who's on the. He made Randy Gregory look like Reggie White out there. That was just terrible what I saw. But when you have a young offensive line, the best way to just give them a little bit of confidence is just to put their knuckles down and just go straight forward and run block. And why is it that the case? I'm sorry, but I have to look at the fact at the article from this past summer with the Athletic. Is it that the Eagles front office and the upper management do not want a power running game? Are they so against it that they won't allow Siriani to implement that as the main thing with this all? Because when I look at this offense has to be started by the running game. When you have the weapons that you have a big offensive line, you got a Miles Sanders, you got a Kenneth Gainwell, and you have a running quarterback. Why not run the ball? I just don't get it. That to me is what I want. And if we don't run the ball in these next couple of weeks, there's no chance of beating the Chiefs, the Bucks, or the Panthers if we even thought we could. So I do wonder, like, what is going on in the game plan? Does Sirianni have limitations to what he can actually put in there? Because throwing 39 times is just mind-boggling. It just makes no sense to me.
Well, I hear you, and ultimately, it's. I mean, if that's the case, then why don't you just come down on the field, Howie, and start coaching? You know what I mean? That's
I'm
that's
with you.
ultimately if you think that if that's what's really happening. I don't know that that's the case. I felt like that the play calling was fairly juvenile. Like it was just not good play calling, not good.
It was stubborn. It was stubborn, I would say.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, well, yeah, let's go to our statistics. Statistics are brought to us today by Philly Sports Trips. Philly Sports Trips with trips to Carolina and Vegas still available. Go to phillysportstrips.com and book your flights, tickets, everything that you want. They do it a la carte, so you can do whatever you'd like. You can get tickets at a tailgate, or you can get flights, hotel, and all the accommodations. So
Yep.
definitely take a look at that, phillysportstrips.com.
Let me ask
Anyways,
you real quick. Let me ask you real quick. On that Philly sports trips, did they make a detour to Atlanta before they go back to Philly?
no, we don't. It wouldn't be so bad if we did. At least we could say, hey, yeah, well, at least we won here. But all right, so the passing 39 attempts, obviously, 25 completions for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He was sacked twice for a total of 23 yards and 86.1 passer rating. In For his counterpart, Dak Prescott has 21 for 26, only 238 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Was sacked 4 times for a total of 18 yards and a passer rating of 143.3. The leading rusher for the Eagles was Jalen Hurts, where he went back another 9 times and wound up having to run the ball. Got for 35 yards. Miles Sanders, 2 rushes, 27 yards. Now, that sounds like a great first quarter statistic, but that's it. 3 times rushing the ball. Gainwell had one rush for 2 yards. 3 times rushing the ball. Really?
I just don't
Really?
get it.
Like 3 times? 3 times we had a play called. The second rush went for like 24 yards. Why not come back for it again? I was starting to yell, why don't we run the ball a little bit? Let's slow down the clock. Like, I understand they were getting ahead. When they were ahead 21-7, we needed to slow the clock down. We needed to rush. We needed to keep the ball in our hands some. Because again, we lost the time of possession here 35-25.
Oh my
So
God. Yeah.
they had it for another 10 minutes longer than us. And
They
no
were running
wonder
the
the
ball.
defense was tired. They rushed the ball. They had 41 rushes for 160 yards.
They have the
Zeke Elliott
balance attack
leading.
that I want here, man. They got that nice bounce attack with Zeke and Pollard, and that's what I would like here. Like, and they had the right game plan. They ran the ball effectively with both those guys, and then they used that play action. You look at that first drive. You ran Zeke a couple of times, and they hit CeeDee Lamb over the top, and that led to the Zeke short touchdown. But yeah, you're 100% right. Like, I didn't even mention that. Like, by running the ball, keeping the ball away from that Dallas offense, which is pretty damn lethal, and we had our difficulties with it as well at times throughout the night. So it just makes no sense. It makes no
And
sense.
the other thing I have to say is I hate it when I'm right. And I said I was talking on the NFC East show on Sunday with Jim Jeffcoat. And I said, this is the first time I have no idea who the tight end of the Dallas Cowboys is. And that bothers me. I said, that means that he's going to be overlooked. And wouldn't you know, they did overlook him because he was targeted 7 times, had 6 receptions for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. This
Yeah.
is the tight end that nobody's ever heard of on the Dallas Cowboys named Schultz.
Yeah.
And it bothered me. It straight bothered me because I called it. I called it that, that you're going to have to pay attention to this guy because Cooper is not feeling it right now. Lamb is going to get his a little bit, and that's going to be the guy who's going to be the important part. And when you give anybody 6 seconds to be able to find the receiver, they're going to find him, and they did find him. They found that receiver, and it was Schultz twice.
Yeah. And with Dalton Schultz, here's the thing: we were all concerned about those outside weapons for the Cowboys with CD and with Amari. We saw a lot of zone coverage from the Eagles defense, and pretty much Dalton found those pockets, and Dak was easily able to find them. And of course, having weak linebackers that we do. And look, I love Alex Singleton. I love the man he is. I love the leader that he is. I love the hard working mentality that he has. But when you have this linebacking core, and Eric Wilson's been a bust in my opinion so far, it's just not conducive. That is our weak point. Teams know that. The Niners exploited it. The Cowboys exploited it. And Dalton Schultz was able to get open. There was no one to cover him. There was just flat out no one to cover him. And that was kudos to the Dallas offense. They knew that we were going to key on those two. And look, we held both those wide receivers. Both those guys, CD and Mari, had 3 catches each. I think CD had like 60 some receiving yards. Mari had 50 some receiving yards. I'll take that. But then Schultz, he gets his, and that really kills because he got himself 2 touchdowns. So it's a concern. The linebacking core is really a concern. Kayvon Wallace was the latest injury news. He's been placed on the IR. From what I understand, he can miss up to 3 weeks. I guess that's the minimum. 3 weeks with that partially separated shoulder. So now, when is Rodney going to come back? He's been activated off the PUP list in the beginning of the year. He hasn't played in these first 3 weeks. Is that knee okay? Can we get him back? Because I don't want to see Marcus Epps continuously back there. I think that Anthony Harris had his weaker game of the 3. And that safety play is so important. And we know that. We definitely know that. So definitely some concerns here with this Eagles defense that looks strong in week 1 and week 2. And week 3, there were some holes that were exploited.
Well, and it's not going to get any easier. I mean, obviously, Kansas City has been going up against some tough competition and losing. You know what I mean? So, do you think they're going to come in here a little fired up? I mean, I would be coming in here a little fired up. Hey, we're 1-2 now, and we just lost to the Chargers. The Chargers who just lost to the Cowboys. So, is it, makes me think, all right, so we're going down the line here. Are the Chargers really much better and making the Cowboys much better that they lost game 1 to the Super Bowl champs and put up a pretty good battle and then, beat the Chargers and then beat us as handily as they did? Or is it, Kansas City is not what they used to be and they are starting to trail off?
I think that the Chiefs are going through like that early season slump. You see teams go through this. I think they will be fine just because of the veteran makeup, and they do have Big Red as their coach. But I just feel like when it. So I mean, you remember in the early 2000s when we were beating up the NFC East. After a certain amount of time, those teams are just like tired of getting pushed around. And I think that's what you're kind of seeing in the AFC West. Like they're tired of getting pushed around by the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's what brought the Chargers up, but. This is gonna be a big game, and again, like what we just said, the Chargers are 1-2 now, and they're this is a game that is much more easily won now with what we've seen. But if we have the same game plan that we've had in the last 2 weeks, don't even get your hopes up, seriously. So it's gonna be an interesting. We'll see how we contain Pat Mahomes. I'm sure the offensive line is still not the strongest point. I've seen Pat been scrambling a lot as well. But this should be an interesting test. And are you ready to welcome Big Red back to Philly?
If he even comes back, I know that he went to the hospital after the game on Sunday, and from what I understood, it was just he was dehydrated. So I'm sure they gave him an IV and said, "Okay, Big, let's go."
Stay hydrated.
So there is. I am concerned in total. I although I don't necessarily 100% agree with Philly fan that there's absolutely no way to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, this is the NFL. Come on, man.
I feel that they need to show, as a team, they need to start to rally. And so here's the issue that I am starting to come up with and so starting to see. Or at least I am formulating in my head because I don't get to see, and we don't get to see this, is the Eagles put a lot of leadership in that locker room now. And the 2 things happen with that. One, when there's a lot of leadership, there becomes a lot of loud voices in the locker room, and you can start to, they can start to pick each other up. However, if they're not buying in the way that they need to buy in, those voices could start to turn. And, the first 4 weeks of this season, as it is in every NFL season, are really preseason games still. They don't play in the preseason at all anymore. So this was still a preseason game, albeit it counts. So. Yeah, I mean, obviously these things count. They all go towards the record. So it's, I am well aware that this is not a preseason game for all those people who think that I'm, talking ass. However, I said that this offense was going to take about 8 weeks to come together and that we needed to be about 500. we're going to need to start to beat some of these teams. So even if we're not going to be able to pull it together with the Chiefs, you got to
Mhm.
show a really a much bigger, like a much stronger effort, just a much stronger effort all the way around. And you just got to do it. These guys are getting paid to play, and if they're not going to play, well, then it's like, well, should we pay them? You know what I mean? Like, actually, I don't get to pay them because it's not coming out of my checkbook. But I mean, ultimately, I gotta imagine Jeffrey Lurie is not real happy. He saw what happened. He was there. You know what I mean? He sees that
Yeah.
that's not what he wants to see out on the field, and it makes me wonder if the phone is starting to heat up in Houston.
I don't think so.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I
I
mean,
don't know. Because
if
then,
you're
then
if
you
you're
think about that. Let's think about that in a little bit of a different way. If Deshaun Watson is here, do you think that game is the same score?
I don't think he even plays. I mean, here's the thing with Deshaun Watson. I get the whole talent. Like, let's forget about the allegations here. The fact of the matter is, there's a reason why he's not playing with the Texans right now, and his trial is in February. So, to me, I don't understand why the NFL hasn't suspended him in general. I mean, when he's got a trial with some serious allegations. But here's what I will say to your last point there. Well, I don't. To me, I don't care about these results. Like I told you, that Lions game to me is when the season really starts for the Eagles. These games, I need to see some heart. I need to see some fight. I need to see them going out there and giving it their all. And that also includes Siriani to be able to put together a good game plan to put these guys in a better situation. And honestly, what you said about the veteran guys, that is a legitimate concern because these guys, a lot of these veteran players won a Super Bowl with Doug Peterson. And now Siriani in week 3 calling terrible games, and now the rah rah is kind of going away. Now it's time to be real. It's time to put away with the cliches, and it's time to talk less and put in more action. Actions always speak louder than words. That's kind of what Sirianni needs to do. So look, these games could definitely, again, like I know if I've ruffled Philly fans' feathers over there, but this is the NFL. And what I mean by that, this is a league where, unless like the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think we can race them out. But look what just happened this past week. I mean, I didn't think the Falcons would beat the Giants. And look, that happened. Anything can happen on a week-to-week basis. Do I think the Eagles will beat the Chiefs? Yeah, but it wouldn't be far-fetched to think that they can beat the Chiefs there when they're struggling on their own as well. So to me, it's about fight. It's about giving your all every single week. There is talent on this roster, and it's about putting that talent in the best possible situation. Use Quez's speed. Use Miles Sanders in between those tackles that have been working so far. Use Kenneth Gainwell as well. Use the tools that you have in your arsenal.
And that the other thing is that how is it such a big fall from grace? How did you call such a great game against Atlanta and not the 49ers or the Cowboys? How do you do that? How is it that you fall so far? Like, the game plan for Atlanta was good. They had a good mix of the run and the pass. They were able to execute. Now, obviously, Atlanta isn't the 49ers or the Cowboys, but they are a professional football team, and we were at their home opener. So we went into, a semi-hostile environment. That there was a lot of Eagles fans there. It's like I said, it's a soccer town down there. But I mean, ultimately, they were able to take care of business.
Let me ask
And
you something. Last night, how many hurry up offense situations did you see the Eagles in yesterday?
looked like twice.
Why isn't that in the game plan more often? I saw a lot of it in the second half of the Falcons game, and you saw with the speed that the Eagles offense has, that works. Now, I'm not saying we need to be Chip Kelly's offense. No one needs to do that. But dude, when you're down 20-7, right? Put that in there. Use that. Get the momentum back. So
The other thing I thought about is they scored that touchdown and they made it 28 or 27-14. and there's 7 minutes left to go in the third quarter. And my thought is, wouldn't this be a perfect time to do an onside kick? Now, I know if I'm thinking it, that they might be thinking it too, but they didn't line up. Like Dallas didn't line up like that. And onside kick are like 25%, and they were running down the field like at will anyways. So, like, why not give it a shot? At that point, again, it's like the element of surprise. 7 minutes left to go in the third period or third quarter, and we're down. Let's maybe try it. I'm with True Blue, and I mentioned it to him, and he goes, "Yeah, it sounds like a great idea, but that's why we're fans. We don't get paid the big bucks. It's like what do you know? You're only a fan. You know what I mean? And that's it. That's what do I know? I'm only a fan. Well, I know that there are times when I feel like I could call better plays. And when I can coach better than the coach is doing and I don't get paid, I have a problem with that. And I used to say that about Doug a little bit. Doug would be the one that would be making like bonehead mistakes. Fourth and goal, and we don't have Zach Ertz out there. Well, now we know we're going to run the ball. Let's stack everybody up in the box, and I bet you they run the ball. And of course, they ran the ball and they didn't make it. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. Those are the things. They are becoming much more predictable than even Doug was, than even Chip Kelly was, because Chip Kelly only had a playbook of 8 plays. You know what I mean? So those are
Yeah.
the things that have to change, and we need to change them as quickly as possible. I was willing to give Siriani 6 weeks to get his,
Yeah.
stuff together. Um, we're halfway through,
We are.
and I'd like to see a second win. Although Carolina's a lot better. I mean, Sam Darnold's.
They're definitely
You know,
beatable, though, I think.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, but I mean, who would have thought Sam Darnold was the second coming of Joe Montana? So, I mean,
And that's what I think
not the
Eagles
Jets,
fans like.
obviously.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like Eagles fans, we all expect in year one our quarterback to be Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid every single time. This stuff does take time. I mean, there are franchises in this league that have never had franchise quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era. So let's just slow our horses a little bit, guys. And again, it's the NFL. It's a week to week basis. And it's funny, I'm watching the game last night with my girlfriend and her brother and her best friend. And my girlfriend's like, "Wait, what happened? I thought we were good in week one." I was like, "Yeah, babe, it's a week to week league here, and that's what it is, man. That's pretty much what it is."
That's exactly correct. So, well, listen, guys, I'm going to have to cut it short today because I have to catch a plane to go back to Philadelphia.
We need
So
them back here.
Yeah, it's because now it's time. Hey, I'm still having my tailgates. The one thing that has not changed at all is my love for the birds, and that ain't
Amen.
ever going away. Win, lose, in some cases tie, and it don't matter. I'm still going to be yelling and screaming and carrying on every week for my team to win the game. So, and that's not going to change. And all those Cowboys fans heard that as well, because I didn't stop just because we were down by a few points, or 20 points, or more. However, like I said, you got to temper it a little bit. You know what I mean? You can't be yelling the same stuff over and over again.
Pretty
Um,
much.
but there was 92,000 people in there, and I want to say there was only about 2,500 Eagles fans. It was a sea of blue and white, and they honored Jimmy Johnson and Drew Pearson and some other guy, last night to put them all in the Ring of Honor over there. So it was their home opener. It was the last home opener for the NFL because it was literally everybody has to play their home opener within the first 3 weeks of the season. So, and it was the first time Dak Prescott was home since the injury.
Yeah,
So there
this
was a
is true,
lot
man.
going against us there. When I spoke to Elliott Shore Parks before the game, I asked him, "What do you think's going to happen?" He goes, "I think we're going to lose." He goes, "I think that," he goes, he's like, "I'm hoping it's close." He was right. He was right. Everybody else was right on this one. I said it was going to be a high scoring game. I was right about that. I said that we need to make sure to take care of the tight ends. I was right about that. I said I wasn't really afraid of Zeke Elliott, and I wasn't afraid of Zeke Elliott. I was more afraid of Pollard, and even Pollard wasn't doing so great. But we got a lot to do. A lot to do.
We
And,
got what is it now? 14 or more of these things. So we got some time, guys.
Exactly. You got to start with a little bit better effort against Kansas City and just be able to move forward. Make sure we can flush this one. We can flush this one. That deuce is flushed, as Jalen Hurts said. So, but anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining us for another Birds Breakdown. We will be back again next Monday nights, not
We'll see you
Tuesday.
guys.
And, we'll hopefully have something better to talk about. So I don't care if we win or lose this game on Monday or next Sunday, but I just need to see a much better effort all the way around, starting from the coaching staff on down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But
Let's beat Big Red, guys. Let's beat Big Red.
exactly. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Go Birds.